All right, here we go with the I Will Never Forgive You podcast, Chapped Ass Edition. If you're wondering what the hell this title means, that'll become clear as we go forward. But first, you'll notice this is the second podcast that dropped. If you look down here, there was another podcast that is about everything that's not One Piece. This podcast is about everything that is One Piece. See how that works? Works pretty good, doesn't it? So, this is everything that's One Piece. So, some of the other stuff, like the general feedback from the last episode, if you want that, if you only care about One Piece, but you also want feedback you want to know what I thought about the comments you left in the last podcast, you're going to have to go to the other one because I did general feedback. Now we're going to do lieutenant feedback. That's a little military joke. We're going to do One Piece specific feedback that we got from various sources, including your comments last episode. So, but yeah, 2 podcasts, no waiting. All right, let's go and get into it. First, we're going to do promotion. You know the drill. I promoted too long last time. Why am I wearing headphones? I don't know. You know the drill. I promoted too long last time, and this time we're going to keep it really short and tight. A tight 30 seconds. I got a Patreon. Tier 3 is $5. That's where you support the podcast. All things podcast will be there. You get early access. This is going to drop Thursday night, Friday morning. People get a full 60 hours advance notice on this. They can leave their little comments. If there's an obvious joke, they made the joke before you ever saw it on Sunday because they got it on Friday. So there you go. Other thing I want to promote, it's the F-bomb thing. You know, like I limit myself to 1 F-bomb per podcast. And if you can get the closest to that F-bomb timestamp-wise, without going over, within 2 minutes, then you win a free reaction of an episode of a TV show. Now, we're not doing movies. Just to be clear, it's an episode of a TV show. It can be the first episode. It can be a 5th episode. It can be the last episode. I don't know why you'd make me watch the last episode, but whatever you want me to watch, as long as I can find it somewhere online, I will react to whatever the hell you want me to watch. And hey, if it's a pilot episode of an anime that I would never have watched, but I like the pilot, I might keep going. You never know. Hey, and it gets good views, you know? You never know. It's got to be a combination of 2 things. But if I like it and it gets good views, we'll keep going. All right, so you got a chance to win that. You just look for Bugs Bunny. Although if you win, I'm going to break in and talk about it. If not, you'll see Bugs Bunny holding the sign talking about the timestamp. This week is special because we have 2 podcasts. You have 2 chances to win if you commented last time. So go back in time, leave a comment. That's probably why I got so many comments last time. Usually I get 1 or 2 people predicting. Last time I got like 5. I think some people went back in time. They heard what I said right here, heard they had 2 chances. They went back in time and left a comment, which is the nerdiest use of time travel I can imagine. Other than being first on a YouTube video. First, if you go back in time to make sure you're the first person to comment, that's the nerdiest use of time travel I can imagine. The second nerdiest use would be to win this stupid contest. But here we go. But yeah, so 2 chances to win. So if you predicted something for a podcast today and you didn't want to watch the other podcast, you might just want to go to your timestamp and see if anything close to your timestamp, if you see Bugs Bunny. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get into it. Everything One Piece. First of all, we're going to do all the One Piece comments that I've been getting. So let's go to that. Oh, we were starting to talk about Hunter Stone had a comment. 2 anime characters I don't think fall for the tropes of being violent are Nico Robin and Kaguya-sama from Love is War. Let's talk about Nico Robin. I started to get into it over there, but this is the One Piece specific podcast, so let's focus in here. I think she can be violent. I think most of the time they use her in any capacity. She's either doing 1 of 3 things. She laughs at somebody else. She thinks Luffy's funny. She laughs at some other people's jokes. Number 2, she's violent. She does the thing, and she kicks somebody's ass. That's the primary use. Number 3, she's a nerd. Now, a 4th is sometimes she can use her hands to be helpful, like a ladder or a bridge, wings, or loading a bunch of hands, passing shit back and forth to load a ship. I think she did that once. But primarily, she's either kicking somebody's ass, or that's really that's the most thing. That'd be like 60%. 10% used to be she would laugh at people's jokes a lot more. Very rarely do we even see that anymore. They're not really together enough for that to happen. Or she's just, running with other people, like in the last arc. Name one thing she did in Wano that you remember. One thing. It was 190 episodes. Tell me one thing she did in Wano that you remember. She rescued Sanji. That's about it. that is interesting. That is interesting. The woman rescuing the man. That is an interesting twist. I do like that. The woman rescuing the man. That's kind of cool. You know, I don't hate it. Well, you've got that, but yeah, I do think she's not what I was talking about. She does break the mold. I just wish they used her more. They don't use any of the Straw Hats anymore, man. Like, when's the last time Usopp did anything important? Or, you know, Zoro obviously, Chopper obviously. Jinbe he just joined the crew, but he had a big impact. Frankie to a lesser extent, and that's about it, man. Like, you know, I'm gonna rank all the characters later in this podcast. Just, you know, usefulness, and just I'll tell you what the categories are gonna be. But, you know, I just wish they utilized her more. But you could say that for a lot of characters. But yeah, I guess, you know, if push comes to shove, if I have to make a decision, she does break the mold. She's not just another angry female character. We wouldn't even call her angry. And Nami's angry, right? Nami's an angry character, but, you know, we don't really see Robin lose her temper. She's just, I think she's older. She's like 28 or 30, isn't she? She's just old. These are a bunch of kids, man. Even after the time jump, they're 19, 20, and 21. They're babies. You know, they're not fetuses. Fetuses are 12 or whatever, but, you know, they're babies, right? They're kids. She's above it all. That's why she just laughs at them instead of engages with their nonsense, right? So she's not subject to these fits of rage, right? Like, you know, by the time you're 28, you're too tired. You get up in the morning and you're already tired. Your body battery's at 20% when you wake up in the morning. Mine's at 5%, but, you know, because I'm much older. But when you're 28, 30, your body battery doesn't have the energy to go out there and, you know, argue with people and scream at people and get mad and domestic violence. You don't have the energy for that shit. You just want to get a protein shake and sit down and watch your shows, man. That's what the hell you want to do. So, anyway, yeah, so I do think she doesn't really fit the mold as much. Okay, yeah, so that was it for the last podcast comments. So we're good there. Now, I did have a bunch of various posts that are related to One Piece. We'll be getting into that very shortly. Okay, so next up, I did a couple polls. So let's talk about that next. The first poll, both these polls are about the Wano arc, by the way. And this podcast is not specifically about the Wano arc. We're going to talk a lot about the Wano arc, but it's really about the entire series. All 1,100 ass episodes. So, yeah, we're going to cover everything. But I had a couple polls about the Wano arc. First of all, now that I finished the Wano arc, who is the main villain MVP? And, you know, this is a broad question, as it always is. Like, Michael Jordan could have won MVP of the NBA every single year he was in the league. Every single year. Well, maybe not the first couple. Once he became Michael Jordan, like probably by his third year. They could have literally just named him MVP every year and just been done with it, right? LeBron James could have been named MVP probably. I don't know how many times he was named MVP. You could probably double that easily. Like, I don't really follow that era of basketball as much closely as I followed the Jordan era. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so people get tired of voting for the same people all the time. But also it could be like, does MVP mean the most valuable person in the entire league? The most valuable player in that particular team? Well, maybe that particular team needs that skill set. Other teams, you wouldn't be that valuable. You can really get lost in all this. Basically, what I'm saying is, most valuable, like, you know, it made the arc more enjoyable than any other single character made the arc enjoyable. Okay, that's my definition. I didn't define it. So you could define it however the hell you wanted to. You know, and that's it. I'm interested to see other people's definitions. And you can even leave a comment for that if you want to, what your definition was. When you saw the poll, if you answered the poll, how did you define this? My definition is they made the podcast. Yeah, they do make the podcast more interesting, don't they? They made the Wano arc more interesting. Like, it was much more enjoyable than if they hadn't been in there. For instance, Big Mom. I would probably name her the MVP because she didn't necessarily have to be a part of this arc. Kaido was the arc. You know, they were going to his territory. They were going to take his shit. She'd already had hers. We already went to her place. We already took her shit. She had her moment in the sun. She didn't have to come here. She could have stayed home and ate her cereal and been fine and still be alive right now. So that's the thing, right? So she didn't have to come in, but she came in and she made it a better arc. Even with the amnesia storyline, she made it a better arc. So I just think, you know, that's, by my definition, Big Mom. Also, the fact it was just unexpected. It wasn't, you know, Kaido, of course, is going to be part of this arc. We're in his home territory. He's going to be there. Now, if he sucked, then the arc would have sucked. However good Big Mom was. The other person I probably would have voted for was Queen. Man, that dude's just awesome. I'm intrigued. 8% of people voted for King. He wasn't in it that much. I put him in there because I needed a fourth. He would have been number 4 on my list. I'm interested in the people that actually said he was the most valuable. He was interesting, and he was damn scary when he actually fought. And damn did he annoy me sometimes getting away. So, like, he wasn't nothing, you know. But Queen was involved way before we got to the final fight. We barely saw King until the final fight. Queen was involved throughout. He was part of the story for the entire arc, for the most part. He probably got the most screen time. He fought Big Mom. King didn't do that. Now, you know, Kaido did, but King didn't do that shit. So he fought Big Mom. Like, for me, he's singing and he's dancing and there's all that shit. But, you know, I just feel like Queen for me and Big Mom for me. But if you got to pick one, I'd pick Big Mom. She actually finished third. Second. She finished second. She was 21%. Kind of ran away with it 56%. I get it. I understand. Like, it was all about him. He probably had the most epic defeat. You know, I think he's dead, but you know, I guess it's debatable. I have heard that anybody ever declared dead or assumed dead in one story arc has never come back in a different story arc. That's what I've heard. It's always been wrapped up one way or another. It's been resolved in that same story arc. So, by that logic, Kaido and Big Mom are both dead. But rules are made to be broken, right? So, it could totally be a thing. So, I get it. I understand. I'm not hating the people like voted for Kaido. I just told you why I would have voted the other way. But 58% thinks Kaido was. So that's kind of interesting. There's also a comment. Hunterstone. Big Mom, but only because she's my favorite. But no, see, like, I think you can make a case. And I think I just did, you know. She came in and she added extra gravitas, extra je ne sais quoi to the storyline that didn't need to be there. She could have just sat on her ass and been fine, right? She'd have been totally fine. But, you know, she didn't. She came in and she came in off the bench and did a good job, I thought. All right, same with the hero MVP. Obviously, Luffy is the obvious choice. That's why he's not on the list. He's the MVP. Like I said, Michael Jordan would win every time. That's not an interesting conversation. An interesting conversation is, okay, if we take Michael Jordan off the board, who's the MVP, right? Which is what we did here. Monosuke and Yamato together, 42% won the vote. Kind of surprising. That probably would have been my fourth. But I get it. Again, I get it. It's their homeland. They had more character growth than anybody. Like, our characters are static. We'll talk about that later. They don't have character growth. Did Big Mom, Queen, or Kaido have character growth? Big Mom maybe had a little bit of character growth. I mean, she was already set in her way. She's in her 60s. What are we going to do, right? There's not much you can do there. But she is, she had a little bit of growth there. There was some movement there, right? Like, it wasn't just a flat line. But those two had the character growth, so that's probably the biggest reason. You saw where they started the arc, and you see where they end the arc. Now, obviously, Yamato started much later into the arc. Like, it wasn't even just the last 80 episodes we even met him. Like, I think. Maybe we met him very, very briefly, very early on. I don't remember. You know how they drag somebody out for 3 seconds and then pay it off 100 episodes later? That could be the case. But for the most part, you know, not as involved as Monosuke. And Monosuke was, of course, around in getting character growth and arc before we even got here, right? But for me, personally, I would have said Zoro because here's the thing. If Zoro doesn't beat King, none of the rest of the shit matters. Like, everybody had to win their fight. Like, obviously, Sanji, that's why he's on the list. He had to beat Queen. That had to happen. And it did happen. Law had to take out Big Mom. And so did Captain Crunch, I guess. I mean, I didn't put him on there because I feel like Law did more. You know, Captain Crunch didn't really do a whole lot. Most of the time, he was just moaning about his crewmate. He only had one crewmate, as far as I remember. I could be remembering wrong, but Law had an entire ass crew. Right? And they were involved a little bit, you know? So, for me, though, like, everybody had to win their fight, but what was the biggest mismatch? What was the hardest fight to win? Sanji kicking Queen's ass. That was Queen's, like, 5th, 6th fight? That day? Like, dude was worn down, man. That was another thing I was going to talk about. Like, you notice how Luffy will fight for 10 minutes and then has to take a nap and eat something? I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but we've seen it so many times. Like, more than once, when fighting a big bad, he's had to take a break and other people had to protect him so he could recover. We never see that with the bad guys. We never see the bad guys wear out. We never see them get tired and have to replenish themselves. Ever. I don't like that. I wish we would. I wish we could see the bad guy run out of gas right before he's going to kill the good guy. Because that's happened with... Luffy was about to kill Daffy, and he ran out of gas. So, we've seen it more than once. So I would just like to... I'd like to see it happen to villains. But, reading between the lines, I mean, like, Queen was definitely worn out. He'd done a lot of fighting. He had not had any recovery time. Not as true for King, I don't think. And he was just, like, you had to diagnose how to defeat this sumbitch. He was hard to beat. King was hard to beat. And Zoro also, on top of everything else, paid the ultimate price. More pain, more recovery time, probably shortened lifespan, just to get back into the fight to even fight King. Sanji didn't do that. And I'm not comparing the two of them. I'm just saying, I'm comparing them in the sense that you stack them all up. Who was more valuable to the win? Zoro was. Now, if we use the same definition we used before, which I do, who made the arc more fun? More fun. Now, Yamato, I really love that character. Made it a lot of fun. I enjoyed every scene they were in. Monosuke, I just wasn't, I didn't vibe with him. It is a beautiful story arc, beautifully written, well done, well paid off, perfectly executed. You can't say anything negative about his story arc or about his character. I just didn't like him. Man, he's just a crying 8-year-old, man. It's just, and look, like I said, I'm not putting any shade. He made a choice to prematurely age himself. He gave up 10 years of life, 15 years of life to save his country. That dude sacrifices everything for his people. You can't say jack shit about him. You cannot say anything negative about him whatsoever. Nothing. Not a damn word. I'm just saying I don't like him. I don't enjoy watching him as a character. Too much crying, too much passivity. Yes, you start there so you can end up here. It's all about character growth. I understand it all. It's not fun to watch. It's not fun to watch an 8-year-old cry every other episode, man. It's just not. I don't enjoy that. So, I don't enjoy him as a character. Yamato I really enjoy, but they're kind of tied to the hip here. I did put them together. If I had 5 slots, I would separate them. But they kind of did work together, too, a lot. I mean, one, I don't know if you could parse it out as one of them or the other. So, who did I enjoy the most? Who I think added the most? Like, if they hadn't been in the arc, it would have been a lot less. Law, I think. I think Law. I enjoyed, like, pretty much every scene he was in. I love his attitude. I love his personality. I love his crew. The fact that he got a submarine is really cool. Nobody else has a submarine. His power is really cool. Hope he's not dead. Maybe even you people at episode 1133 don't know if he's dead or not. Maybe that hasn't even been returned to yet. I don't know. But I'll say this, man. Like, for me, he was the MVP because I enjoyed the arc more because he was there. That's where I'm coming from. Let me know what you think there. Here's a twist on a question I asked. A few days ago I asked, what is your favorite non-anime fictional universe? And, Star Wars, Star Trek, superheroes, DC or Marvel, both, and Harry Potter. What is your favorite anime universe? I know this is a One Piece specific podcast. Everybody's going to say One Piece. But think about it. Just think about it for a second, okay? What is the coolest? Because for me, One Piece is I like the world building. For me, One Piece is about the characters. I love the characters. I don't necessarily love the world building. To me, the planet doesn't make any goddamn sense. You got all these different islands. Each one has its own weather pattern. I don't understand the Grand Line. I don't, are we saying that there's like a continent this wide circling the entire world? Like, how would you have plausible weather systems if that was true? Like, I just half the world, you have underground channels, I guess, where water can flow back and forth. But a lot of the weather is determined by that. It's like where the oceans come together from different parts of the world. Like, the bottom of South America creates a lot of weather patterns, right? And, same with the bottom of Africa and shit like that, right? So, the world doesn't make any damn sense. So, I don't think it's coherent. I don't think it's ever going to make sense. I don't think we're ever going to get any answers as far as the world goes. It's magic. Okay, it's a fun sandbox for our characters to play, and that's all we care about. So, can you, objectively speaking, say the universe? I'm talking about world building, the locations, and the magic systems or technology systems. Is this your favorite? Can you objectively say? If you can, that's fine. It's not mine. Probably my favorite world building slash magic systems, maybe even slash culture that I've ever seen. Probably Fullmetal Alchemist. Believe it or not, I love the magic system there. It's grounded. It feels like it could be there, but then you also, like, you just have the military aspect, you have the technology aspect. The politics made sense. The maps made sense. You know, the world building made sense. You know, that's a really good one for me. Attack on Titan is pretty good. You know, it's such a mystery box that you slowly realize what you're actually dealing with here, right? It all kind of ties together. I think it kind of fits. It makes sense. So it'd be one of those, right? Like, you know, just favorite. But the problem with both of those is they're kind of close-ended. One Piece is open-ended. I will give you that. You could do a sandbox video game role-playing kind of thing like Skyrim or something and never run out of shit to do in a One Piece world. You'd probably run out of shit to do in like Full Metal or Attack on Titan because it's kind of limited. Like, it's too grounded to a certain extent. One Piece, you can always just go to another island, right? And it could be anything there. That I don't know why. Why is it that people just can't make good video games for the best franchises out there? Song of Ice and Fire, DC, you know, slash Marvel. Like, I don't really know much about those kind of video games. I don't think there's any good ones out there, as far as I know. I think there's a couple good Star Wars games out there. So, but like, you know, Harry Potter, the games are ass. Walking Dead, the games are ass. A Song of Ice and Fire, the games are ass. One Piece, the games are ass. These are you. You should be able to just. I mean, a Walking Dead role-playing Fallout style game is a natural, man. How is that not like? How's that not working? Like, how you got scavenge for shit. There's attacks and come anywhere. You got humans to worry about, and you have zombies to worry about. You got to keep your party together. You could do it like a city builder. You could do a city builder there. You could do role play, like, you know, just or whatever they call it, where it's like you're one character and you have your weapons and you have your inventory and shit. You could do that. I think Skyrim's kind of like that. Like, there's so many damn things you could do with Walking Dead alone, right? Just the universe. Like, there's all this shit to scavenge. Humanity just died and left all their shit on the ground. Go out and find it, man. Like, and crafting and all that shit. How is that? Like, The Last of Us showed it's possible. Maybe it's because you have to tell specific stories, but you don't need specific stories. I think you can make your own story, right? Like, you know, scavenge for shit. You get randomly attacked. You try to keep your crew together. And X number of turns, you have to have a certain number of people still alive in your party. And if you achieve that, you have a certain number of people alive, then you win the game or something, right? And so, like, but you have to go out there and get supplies. You can't just sit on your ass hiding in a cave because you run out of supplies, you'll starve to death. So you have to put yourself out there, which puts you at risk for attacks, and the human element would even be more interesting, right? The factions and shit. That's a natural. I don't understand how you don't have like a Civilization style A Song of Ice and Fire game. Build Winterfell. You're up in the north. You have the map, and every other house is its own civilization, and some of them can be like, you know, the city states that are in Civ 5, right? I know Civ 5. Just model it right after Civ 5. Some of these houses would be city states. Some of them would be civilizations. You have the Westeros map. You're fighting with each other, trying to make as large of an empire as you can, and eventually the White Walkers come rolling in with the race, right? And then the end game of your game is you have to be ready to go. You have to have your fortifications built. You have to have enough troops and enough technology, weapons stocked up to survive the White Walker invasion. You never know what's coming. It could come at turn 100. It could come at turn 500. It's random each time. That just takes civilization and slap. Like, I guess people could do it with a mod. Like, it would take very little modification, man. Pay Sid Meier. Write him a check. use the same game as Civ 5 and just make it Game of Thrones, and that shit would sell millions, man. How would that not be cool? People would want that, man. You build up your civilization, you take over the other houses, and then you prepare for the White Walkers, man. God, that'd be fun. I'd play the hell out of that, man. I might have to shut my reaction channel down. I'd be playing it so much. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. And One Piece. How is One Piece not a good game, man? You got the powers. One Piece Fortnite. The island's already there, you know. Teams are already there. You know, having to defeat other people is already part of the game, man. You know, just fly in off your little flying skateboard or whatever the hell it is. Land, squat up, and kick some ass. Or anything. Like another, again, like Fallout or something. Like, I don't understand how these shows have not produced good video games. Like, maybe, and maybe what it is it costs so much to buy the license to do a One Piece, Song of Ice and Fire, Harry Potter, whatever game, you don't have anything left over for game development. Game development is expensive and it takes a long time, and maybe your license only lasts so long. These are fixable problems. Like I said, you write 2 checks. 1 check to George R.R. Martin so that he doesn't have to write any more books, so he gets another big fat check for his big fat lazy ass. Sorry, man, I shouldn't go there. I'm actually starting to get angry, and I've been the most chill about how long these... You know what? I'm not holding back. How long these fucking books are taking. God, it's bullshit, man. This sumbitch, I think he basically admitted in a blog post recently, he's like, F it, I'm just not doing it anymore. I should have saved the F-bomb. I explained why in the other one. I should have saved the F-bomb. I should never do it early. Because now, what if I get mad about something else? Now I have to hold my tongue. But it's out there. No take backsies. Card laid, card played. Whatever. But anyway, man, so annoying. It's just, I'm getting sidetracked. Cut 1 check to George R. R. Martin. Cut another check to Sid Meier for Civ 5, which is, 2 games ago now. They don't give a shit about it. You could probably buy it right now, the entire Civ 5 package, for $20. It's 2 games ago now. So they don't care about the license. Just take it directly. The engine, you just got to redo the graphics, change the narration, and change the music. So, but the engine's there, and everything is all set up. The map, how they make up the maps, and the AI for the civilizations, the city-states, and all that stuff. Man, literally, the amount of time it takes, say it takes 5 years to do that from ground up. You've now saved yourself 4 years. You just have to spend a year changing the maps, standardizing the maps so it's always Westeros, and then maybe you can have a scenario where you can play as Essos. Why the hell would you want to? I don't know. Maybe you can do a scenario where Daenerys invades randomly. That can be just as random as the White Walkers, so you kind of watch both things. You got to watch an invasion, but also got to watch out for the White Walkers. It would take a year instead of 5 years. So that 4 years of development time you saved, you cut the check to Sid Meier and you cut the check to George R. R. Martin. Boom, done, millionaire. Send me my money. It's my idea. You can have it for free, just cut me a check. God damn, man. I don't understand why these things just can't produce good games. Why? I don't know anything about the Hogwarts Legacies or whatever. It might be a good game. I don't know. There was a game that was very similar. Maybe it was the first Legacies. The second Legacies may be the one that's good. I don't know. But one of them was one of these things where it's like you get magical energy, and then after you can have enough to do like 3 spells or 3 actions or something. Then you have to wait 20 minutes for it to rebuild. It's one of those mobile games that basically wants you to pay for extra energy or whatever, extra magic, or you have to wait for 20 minutes. They hope that you waiting for 20 minutes will inspire you just to send them money, right? It's a grift. It's a grift mobile game. Is what I heard one of these games was. And so people hated it. Like, you create your own character, but then you're trying to learn spells and interact with people. You keep running out of magic energy, and then you have to sit around and wait. Who the hell wants to do that? So that's what I heard sucks, but that may have been the first Legacy. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I'm just saying, how does none of these franchises produced any of these good games? But my question was, what's your favorite anime fictional universe? If you're gonna just say One Piece, then tell me your second favorite. But I mean, look, like I said, I love One Piece. I would play the hell out of a One Piece game. But most of what I love One Piece for is the world. Is the most of what I love One Piece for is the characters, though. It's not the world building. It's not the magic system. So that's where I'm at. And the sense of humor, of course. All right. Now let me see if there's any comments for this post. Okay, it was. I was talking about every episode after 1090 has me liking everybody's got their eyes bugging out, right? And Kids Milk said, new arc is so good, honestly, one of my faves. I love it so far. I'm up to episode 1100 exactly. And I'm really liking this arc. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the episodes are shorter, but I think that's going to make the pacing better. Which I think will solve any of the problems I have with Wano. You know, because they don't have to waste time because they have less time to fill. So, we're good, right? You know? All right. Then another comment from Kids Milk. Quote by Oda about the final saga. When I was a kid, I thought to myself, man, I would love to draw a manga with the most hyped final stage. I wonder if I'm up to it. I'm going to be talking about this later, by the way. Endings. How is this all going to end? Now we only have a tiny bit of Wano arc left. The preparations are almost done. That's like one of these things that had to slide in place before you could finish the story. And I feel like Future Land is another one of those. After this arc, we're probably just going to have a bunch of fighting, essentially. I think we're done with the adventure phase, the exploration phase of the story. Now it's just exposition, kick ass, roll credits. That's pretty much it, right? Now we only have a tiny bit of Wano arc left. The preparations are almost done. Took me 25 years, LOL. That said, it's fine if you start reading from this point on. Because from this point on, it'll be the One Piece. The mysteries of the world, I'll be drawing all of them. It'll be super interesting. Fasten your seatbelts and please stay with me for a bit longer. Hey, I'm in for the ride, however long it takes, man. Like, I trust him. I trust the author. And there is nothing that's harder for me to do than trust the author. Any author, ever. There was a time I trusted George R. R. Martin. You know? I don't anymore. All right, let's see. Now, finally, I asked a question now. There wasn't much time. It was only 4 hours. 6 hours. But just because this is, I Will Never Forgive You One Piece edition, I ask, in honor of my podcast covering One Piece this Sunday, what is one thing you will never forgive One Piece for? It can be in universe or out of it. For instance, maybe the author... Oh, shit, that's a typo. For instance, maybe the author did something that pissed you off, or maybe a character did. And I love this picture of Luffy. I don't know what arc it's... I think it could be fan art, but he's looking furious. So let's start with what I won't forgive the show for. I'm going to do one of each. One in the universe, one out of the universe. In universe, I will never forgive Garp for stopping Luffy from saving Ace earlier. Who knows what would have happened? Garp, all he had to do was sit there. Ace, Luffy would have got to Ace, would have gotten him out of there, and they would have gotten away before Lava Bitch had a chance to kill him. Now, as the essay, I really want to find the essay this week. I'm going to do it. I'm going to rewatch it and do a reaction to it. Because it talks about that very thing. What killed Ace? What specifically killed Ace? So we'll get into that there within a week. But that aside, Garp. I don't give a shit. Uncle, grandfather, whatever, feelings. Look, you chose duty over love. Now, they say love is the death of duty. They say that for a reason. Because love is stronger than duty. And you dutied all over your pants, man. Because you should have picked love. And you picked honor. Look, it's easy for me to say somebody else should sell out their honor. I would have done it, man. Execute me. We ain't asked you to betray them. We're just asked you to sit on your ass and not do something. Just not do something. Hey, I was distracted. I was looking over here. I had an episode of Vertigo. Luffy was too fast for me. No, he got up and he physically prevented Luffy from getting the Ace and was talking shit at the same time. F you. See, this is where I really want to drop that F-bomb. I'm gonna want to again after this, believe that. That's why I should never use it early. F you. I will never forgive him for that. And he's dead to me from now until whenever, man. Cool character, great backstory, a lot of shit. You know, he's woven through. You can't tell that. They say Hall of Famer. What's the definition of a Hall of Famer in any sport? You can't tell the history of that league without mentioning their name. That's a Hall of Famer. You cannot tell the history of the NFL without mentioning Joe Montana, the Hall of Famer. You can tell it without mentioning whoever the Bengals center was in the 80s who made it to the Hall of Fame. He's not really a Hall of Famer. If you can't tell the history of the league without mentioning their name, they're a Hall of Famer. So he's a Hall of Famer when it comes to the history of this universe, the history of this world. He's had a major part in many, many spots. He killed his own. It's not his grandson. I can't remember. Is he a blood relation to Ace or is he a blood relation to Luffy? I can't remember. He's basically their uncle, or their grandfather, both of them. But they're adopted brothers, right? So I don't remember whichever one he is. Either way, you betrayed blood and you betrayed love and you betrayed family for the stupid Navy you shouldn't even be paid devotion to, man. F you forever. It's F you forever. You're dead to me. So I will never forgive Garp. Argue with your mother. I don't want to hear it. I want to hear it in the comments. I'm not gonna. You're not gonna change my mind. F that mofo. Man. Jesus, really pissed. I'm still mad. It's been over a year. I'm still mad. I was mad the day that happened. The day I watched that reaction, I was pissed off. All right, let's see what other people said. Oh no, that was my in-universe. Out-of-universe. I will never forgive the author for getting bored of the Straw Hats. I don't remember what it was after the time skip. He just got tired of doing character development for the Straw Hats, and they had no character development. But he got tired of even doing stories centering around them. You could have this many Straw Hats and still cater to that many characters. Look at Game of Thrones, man, the TV show. How many characters did they have? Lost had 12 leads. 12 leads! And they were able to give each lead at least one centric episode per season. Sometimes two. Some of them got 3 if they were really interesting. You go around, man. You go around the merry-go-round. Eventually the episode gets to them, you know? And what Sanji's gotten a really nice story. Robin's gotten a little bit of a glow-up at the end of the last arc. You know, we went into, even before that, when she was having the dream sequence of fantasies, whatever, because that creature, the spider bitch, was giving her hallucinations or whatever the hell that was. So we got a little bit there. But most of the characters have just been falling by the wayside. Meanwhile, Slave Master Girl and then Creepy Girl get episode after episode after episode of attention. Monosuke got dozens of hours of screen time. Yamato got a lot of time. I don't mind the guest stars coming in. Toy Soldier was a perfect balance. Toy Soldier and Jessica, whatever her name was. Rebecca? It's either Rebecca or Jessica. Those two, perfect amount. Perfect amount. I love their story. It was really heartbreaking. You know, they're my favorite side characters ever. I like that shit. But, you know, now it's just like I understand you're bored. I understand you've been doing it for 25 years. If I've been doing anything for 25 years, you know, I'm sure I'd be bored of it. But there's got to be a way to refocus, man, and just prioritize the characters. And maybe if you did, maybe it wouldn't take 25 years. By the way, we don't have to have some centric side character. So far, I don't think we've met anybody, and then we're only 15 episodes in to the new arc, Futureland or whatever. Maybe not even that many, but we're somewhere around 15. But I don't think we've met anybody that's going to suck up a huge ton of screen time so far. So maybe this is, you know, I'm ranting about something that has already been changed. But this is what I won't forgive him for. But we haven't got the, you know, Usopp, any competent writer, and this guy's the best writer I've ever seen. But like I said, sometimes you lose the forest for the trees. You're too close. Anybody can be too close. He's the best writer I've literally ever seen. He's a genius. This is a masterpiece. This will be the greatest story ever told when he finishes it. He has to finish it. But when he finishes it, this will be the greatest story ever told. Hands down. But nobody's perfect. He's a human being. And his fatal flaw is not being able to analyze when character growth should happen. And Usopp should have been a different person after spending 2 years on Deadly Island, right? Survival Island. He got the glow up. He's stronger. He's got a bunch of potions and weapons he can use now. But he's the same person character-wise, and you will never convince me that that's okay. He will be different, man. And that's across the board. I don't know specifically if what everybody else went through where they changed their personalities. Like Frankie, for instance, he's never really had a personality anyway. Probably would be less silly now. After what he went through, he basically had his entire body stripped down to the circuits. He had to rebuild himself again. Chopper should be more mature now. It has been 2 years. He's basically like they're all the same, man. Like there was no character growth through the time jump, and there should have been. And these characters are static; they don't grow, and that's to the detriment of the story. Everything else is perfect. Like just the storytelling, the weaving, like the construction, the consistencies. I never see like the 10 biggest plot holes in One Piece. He said this here, and they did this here, and that doesn't make sense. You see that with every story. Harry Potter was only 7 novels. It only took about 10 years to write. There are plot holes like a mug in that story. Where's the 10 biggest plot holes? Like, wow, this literally doesn't make sense. He screwed up. Where is that? He doesn't screw up for the most part. I'm sure you could probably find a couple. There's definitely a few retcons, but retcons not inherently intrinsically bad. They just are. They're a thing, But that's going to happen when you tell a story for 25 years. Sometimes you get a better idea, and you should be allowed to weave that better idea into your story. And just like, let's forget about this other thing over here. I'm talking about actual ass plot holes. Like Sanji was from North Blue, but now you're saying he's from South Blue. George R. R. Martin had the horse change gender. In one book, the horse was male, and in another book, it was female. He had eye colors changing. He had a woman's body shape change. She had no chest. Now she has a chest, and she's 25, so that doesn't really happen at that age. So, nobody's perfect. You're telling a story of literally hundreds of characters, and you're telling it over 25 years. George R. R. Martin's a good example of that. Of course, we're never going to get another one of these books. So we won't know, but, the last one came out in 2012. So if you had something that was inconsistent with the first book that came out next year, let's say, then it would be understandable. Too bad it's never going to happen. But anyway, this story that is coming out and will finish, unless he gets hit by a bus or something. So let's pray the bus drivers know what the hell they're doing in Japan. This story will finish. So he is like I said, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time in this podcast glazing him because I've been doing that for the 2 years I've been reacting to this series. I think he's a genius. But he's not perfect. And this is his fatal flaw. This is his original sin. He doesn't provide character growth for any of the main characters. And he's spending all his time on these side characters we don't give a shit about when we sure would love to have more time with the main characters. And the other thing, just not even really, I'm not going to blame him for this one. I would personally like to see them spend time on the ship. 2 or 3 chapters of nothing but ship life between islands. And I know the story's already long. I understand that. We're only talking about a month or two, man. Like, it's 1 issue a month, right? We're only talking about a month. Like, nobody's going to bitch about that. I just would love to see more time with just the characters before they get to the place. We never do it. It's too bad. But anyway, that's the fatal flaw. That's the thing I'll never forgive him for. But it's still a great story. Like I said, it's going to be the greatest story ever told, assuming he finishes it, which, he should. He's not, he's not even 50 yet, is he? He's got plenty of time. And he's working regularly. He has the work ethic that George R. R. Martin somehow lost. Okay, let's see what you will never forgive. All right, Mockin' Rose? Mockin' a Rose? I feel like there's, if I could arrange the letters in a certain way, it would make sense. Maybe it's McKenna Rose or something. No, I don't know. Interesting name. Maybe you can give me a pronunciation guide because it's an interesting name. The fact that this show has been going on for way too long. Hey, would you want less? So they bring you out what is the biggest I don't remember. I used to always love the hot fudge sundae, but there was the banana split. The banana split was the biggest dessert you could get, right? Like at least when I was growing up, it was huge. And you had the two big bananas. You had the 3 scoops of ice cream. Each ice scoop has a different topping. And you got the nuts and the fudge and the whipped cream and all that shit. And hot fudge sundae was like 1/3 of that, right? But I always preferred the hot fudge sundae because the heat with the cold just really worked for me. You know, I would smash about half of it, and then it would the cold had kind of cooled off the heat at that point. Just mix it all together, and basically I'd have chocolate ice cream at that point, or fudge ice cream. It's so good, man. My God, I haven't had a hot fudge sundae in years, man. This fat actually is like actual regular food. I'm not really big on the sweets. I oatmeal pie every now and then, some brownies or whatever. I have a little bit of sugar to keep me up, my energy up for doing all these reactions. But for the most part, I don't really do the dessert thing. Can't remember the last time I bought ice cream for the freezer. So, man, hot fudge sundae, that would slap. That was my favorite. But how the hell did we get on this? Oh, Jesus. So, say they bring you out a banana split, okay? But it's only 1/3. Like they've taken 2/3 and they just pulled it out of the dish. And so you've only got that 1/3. You got the 1 scoop, 1/3 of the banana on each side, 1 cherry, just 1/3 of the whipped cream and fudge and peanuts and stuff, and that's it. That's all you get. Who the hell wants that? Now, if you're a little person, I guess that would fill your tummy, and that's all you need, right? Okay, fine. You're on a diet or whatever. I guess that's okay. I want as much as possible. I want the full goddamn banana split. So, I want this show to last forever. Now, I also want a good ending. Part of the journey is the ending. Iron Man said it himself. But, man, I don't want it to end right now. So, the too long complaint, I hear you. I know what you mean. I don't feel that way. I want it to last as long as possible. It's going to be the greatest story ever told. As long as he sticks to landing, we'll get there. We're going to talk about that pretty soon here. Joseph Joestar. The stretch between Fishman Island to the end of Punk Hazard could have been written better in terms of crew moments and race to the One Piece. All right, now, to that end, let me look up what that stretch was. Let me show you what I'm looking at, and you'll see why it's confusing. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. It says East Blue, but then it also says Romance Dawn. What the hell does that mean? And then it says Alabaster, but it also says Reverse Mountain. And Sky Island, but also Goat Island? Why is it always 2 names? Or is that a location? I don't know. But then Surah Village is only 1 name. I don't know why that is. Oh! I see. Never mind. I'm a dumbass. You go down. You don't go... I was going left to right. You go up and down. Okay. So East Blue is a saga. Or is... Because it says Sea of Survival Super Rookie Saga. Then we've got the Final Sea, the New World Saga. Okay. Well, whatever. Like East Blue is a nameless... I don't know what that category is. Because it's not story arc, is it? And these are what? Individual chapters in the story arcs? I guess that's what it is. So East Blue is Romance Dawn, Orange Town, Surah Village, Barrett, Arlong Park, Logue Town, Buggy's Crew Adventure Chronicles. And, those are covers, okay. And then Warship Island. Alright, anyway. I love that they have the covers listed here, too. That's pretty good. I was going to rank them, but I think each one's just better than the last, at least in this category, this group. Each one's better than the last. It really is. So there's no point in ranking them. Because, like, for instance, Alabaster Arc is better than East Blue Arc, right? Sky Island Arc is better than Alabaster. Water 7 is better than Sky Island. Thriller Bark, I think, is better than Water 7. I think a lot of people disagree, but it is, in my opinion, anyway. And then Summit War is better than Thriller Bark, of course. Then... Fishman Island, I don't think is as good as Summit War. So that's the first one that's not as good. I would put it as better than Thriller Bark, though, right? Dressrosa is better than all the ones that came before it. Whole Cake Island is better than all the ones that came before it. Wano Country. I don't think is, I don't know, I guess it's better than Whole Cake Island. It's really close. It's really, really close. And then I guess we're calling this one the final arc. Or the final saga anyway. It's the final saga. But if it's final saga, why is it the final C, the New World Saga? You see what I mean? I don't understand how they have this classified. Anyway, so what was the question? The question was between Fishman Island to the end of Punk Hazard could have been written better in terms of the crew moments. Okay, so Fishman Island is here. To the end of Punk Hazard. Where the hell is Punk Hazard? Okay, Punk Hazard is here. So we're talking about Fishman Island, which is episodes 517. Starts at 517. And the end of Punk Harbor starts at 625. So he's saying about, during this run of about 108 episodes, it could have been better. So we had Return to Sardobia, Fishman Island, Torika crossover. That's a special episode, I guess. Then we had Dressrosa. Yeah, I think that's true. I think, for one thing, Dressrosa and Whole Cake Island, they split the crew in half. Half went one place, half went the other. So that's already a problem. And then, even though you only have half the crew with you, you still don't spend any time with them. So that's another problem. So I think it's really basically the same problem we've been having before, right? What I've been talking about. He's bored of the Straw Hats. It's that simple. He's bored of them. Maybe Jimby will get some shine because he just hasn't been around as much. Here's a question. Do you think we're done adding crew members? I mean, we're in the final saga, right? Do you think we're done adding crew members? I think we may get one or two more. But we didn't get one in Wano. And Wano was the longest arc we've ever had and we didn't get one. So it's very possible we are done. That would not shock me. I want to see another crew member too, but then again, do we really want to take away from the people we already have? Because we're not getting any time. The thing is, though, it could be Luffy, Usopp, and Nami only for 10 straight episodes. And he would find a way to bring in some other character who can get all the attention and all the character growth and all the flashbacks and all the exposition. So it does. I don't think how many people you have matters. I think he's just bored with those people. He's bored with them. He's not bored with Luffy, but he's bored with the rest of them. And that's just too bad. But yeah, I think Joseph Joestar has a point here. Frederick, I probably have a few, but the one that comes to mind is the fact that Usopp awakened his observation hockey in Dressrosa 11 years ago. And we haven't heard about it ever since, except in a movie. What movie was that? But also, it's not fair to say 11 years ago. It's only been story time 3 weeks? Maybe a month, something like that, since Dressrosa? Maybe a month? My timing could be off, but it feels like it's been about a month. If that. And he hasn't been on screen very much, so we don't know what he's been doing off screen. But, yeah, I mean, that's, in real world terms, of course, it's been 11 years. But that's the problem. When you don't have the character development, you could literally sit there, and I bet you could point to a fact, like we were talking about Song of Ice and Fire, right? It has now been 13 years since we've gotten a new Danny chapter, since we know what's happened to Danny. 13 years in real world terms. The other book came out, the previous book came out in 2005. It's been 20 years since whoever was in that book. I don't remember. It could have been Jon Snow. It's been 20 years since we've gotten a new Jon Snow chapter. I think that's how it works. But, yeah, there are people that got chapters only in that book. I think it was A Feast for Crows. And then, was that The Feast for Crows? Anyway, it doesn't matter. There were two books. One came out, they were both supposed to be one book, but he split them in half. One came out in 2005, one came out in 2012, right? So, because it was one book split in half the characters were in one book, half the characters were in another book, and then a few characters had chapters in both, right? So there were people that were in that first book that came out in 2005. We've had nothing new from them in 20 years. You could have been born the day that book came out. You'd be 20 ass years old right now. You could be in the military right now. Not able to drink. You could be in the military at 18, but you can't drink till 21. Go figure. What the hell is that, right? That doesn't make any sense. But them's the rules, right? But yeah, you could have spent 2 years in the military already and have gotten no new news on Jon Snow. So, real world concerns do enter into this at a certain point because it's just been so goddamn long, right? Yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't forgive him either. I completely forgot about the observation hockey. I have no idea what you're talking about. Does that mean he can see shit far away? Was that what he used when he was sniping? When he was doing the sniper thing, was he using observational hockey? I don't remember. I only saw the episode once, so I don't remember. But yeah, let me know what you think on that. All right, well, that is the feedback. Now, let's do the anime episode highlight for One Piece. Now, there is an episode with recency bias. This was going to be my pick, but then I realized it's so recent that it's got to be recency bias. So I picked another episode as well. But these are the two episodes I think of the most. If I was to lay here, so I was not necessarily if I was to show people one episode of One Piece to get them hooked, what would I show them? Probably a self-contained one episode filler because it's self-contained so they can follow what the hell's going on. There's a couple filler episodes that are really, really good. In Water 7, they had several filler episodes that were excellent. So probably one of those. There's one where somebody had to cook something. I don't remember what that was all about. If I could show them one small filler arc to get them hooked, it'd be Warship Island. That was a really good arc. I love that. That's probably my favorite filler arc. But the recency bias would be the episode where Kato died. Because he had flashbacks. We were running through his life, and the music and the visuals were perfect. It was just epic. It was poetic. Just perfect. Just absolutely top notch. I mean, just, could not have been executed any better. Huge fan of the episode. Also like episode 1000. I think they did a really good job there. But that had to be good. I think they just, if you did a great job, you met expectations. I don't know what you could have done to exceed expectations. This exceeded expectations. As far as the episode where, from the way past, that doesn't have recency bias attached to it. I don't know the episode, but it's during the Arlong arc, where Nami's at her wit's end. She's crying. Probably never asked for another person's help in their entire life. At least, a relative stranger. Turns to Luffy and asks him for help. And he says, "Of course I will." He gives her the hat. I think it's the only time in the series history he gives somebody his hat. He maybe has people hold it every now and then, but, he put it on her head. Officially making her a straw hat at that point. Don't forget, she stole his goddamn ship, right? That wasn't cool. Anyway, that one really, that's the first time the show made me emotional. So you always remember your first time. Maybe it wasn't your best time. We've been emotional since then quite a few times. They've hit me in the feels quite a few times. Nami isn't my favorite character. I've been complaining before, but I was talking about character growth and not the lack thereof. When's the last time any of these people have mentioned their dream? Thought this whole series is based on their dreams. Maybe Zoro becoming the greatest swordsman in the world. That's been mentioned relatively recently. Has the word Nami and map been in the same sentence in 15 years real world time? Has we seen her draw maps? I've asked this question recently, and somebody said you can see it every now and then in the background or whatever. But yeah, I guess. Okay, I don't remember. We don't see her drawing maps. We don't even, I guess we see her using a log pose a little bit. Really, it's just, there isn't any navigating, man. Arrow, okay, follow the arrow. I don't know. I mean, Usopp's dream. What the hell was his dream? To have adventures he could not lie about, tell people about, not lie about? Yeah, dude, he's one of the biggest pirates in the world. He's one of the most famous pirates in the world. He has a huge bounty on his head. He can dine off that for the rest of his life as far as storytelling goes. He has stories for people. And he actually moved the needle in some of these plots. That sniper thing we were talking about, Dressrosa, that was crucial. That was mission critical. Mission critical. That worked like a charm, and that's just one example of one time he saved our asses. Yeah, remember when you had the fantasy if you failed, what that would be like? Luffy bouncing around as a toy. That was a great fantasy sequence where he missed, right? So he'll get his dream. He's the only one that has the dream in hand already. He could retire today and he lived his dream. But I think one of his dreams was to be captain of his own ship or something. So we've got that going on. I don't even remember Frankie's dream. I have no idea. Maybe he's already achieved it. You know, to make a ship for a world-class pirate. Okay, he's done that. So I guess he achieved his dream. Sanji's dream is the all blue. Who the hell knows? Do we even know what Robin's dream is? I guess to find out everything about history. Chopper's dream is to be a world-class doctor. I guess he's kind of achieved that. You know what I mean? We don't have these conversations anymore. We're not doing that. They're not talking about it. There's no focus on any of that. Luffy's dream is to be king of the pirates. That we hear about that all the time. Because again, you know, Luffy's the main character. This show has one main character. This show has a generic name, and it's one person. To give the implication that it's an ensemble series, but it's not. It's one main character. Naruto has, you know, a character name, so you assume it's one main character named Naruto when it's actually an ensemble show. Like that, I'm always loving that parallel. The show that feels like an ensemble is actually one main character. The show that feels like one main character is actually an ensemble. It's wild how that turned out. You know, considering the Pirates versus Ninja thing from a while back, right? That was all the rage 10, 15 years ago. But those are my two highlights. I won't even say my two favorite. It's impossible to have a favorite episode out of 1100. They're all my children. Some are better than others, but, you know, those are two highlights. All right, let's get to the main topic. Endings are hard. Any chapped-ass monkey with a keyboard can poop out a beginning. But endings are impossible. You try to tie up every loose end, but you never can. The fans are always going to bitch. You know they are. There's always going to be holes. And since it's the ending, it's all supposed to add up to something. I'm telling you, endings are a raging pain in the ass. I wish I had written that. I lifted that from Supernatural. But it applies. I think about that often.
Any chapped-ass monkey with a keyboard can poop out a beginning, but endings are impossible. You try to tie up every loose end, but you never can. The fans are always going to bitch. There's always going to be holes.
I think about it every time there's an epic story that is closing on the ending. This comes to mind. Since the first time I heard that in 2010. In my time period, from what I've watched, I have seen the endings of some pretty goddamn epic stories. I've seen the ending of Lost. Epic. 6 seasons. The hype was unreal. The fan base was incredible. You had to wrap up so much shit. Did they stick to landing? I think they did. A lot of people shit on it, and a lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. But I think they stuck to landing. You know, and it's a show, if you watch it another 5-6 times, you can figure out all the answers yourself of what they didn't explicitly state. It's there. Check out the Lost Explained channel. Like, they've got it all, right? Chokoros, or whatever his name is, he did a good job, too. He walked through the whole series, season by season. It's there. The information's there if you want it, if you can dig for it. But, like, it's not explicitly answered. But it's not even about the mysteries. It was about the characters, and they wrapped the characters up in a beautiful way. They stuck to landing. The rare epic story, but that's really, when we're talking about epic, though, how many hours of television are we talking about? It's a little over 100, I think. It was, let me see, the first 3 seasons were 24 episodes apiece, so that's 72. I think they end up with like 108, 109, 110 hours, or episodes, or whatever, something like that. Not very much, in the grand scheme of things. You know, that's 2 sagas of One Piece, and they've got that beat. X-Files, a bigger deal. 9 seasons, one movie at the time when they had their series finale. Now they've had a couple of movies since then. They've done the revival and all that shit. But like the original season 9 finale was supposed to wrap up 9 years of iconic, epic storytelling on a grand scale. 20 episode seasons 9 times, like, you know, and even that, you know. So what are we talking about? Like almost 200 hours of storytelling. 20 episodes times 10 seasons would have been 200 hours, but then it's only 45 minutes, so it's less, right? So, but it's only 9 seasons. So, you know, not even 200 hours. Now, speaking of Supernatural, 350 hours. 350 episodes. That's epic storytelling. Did they stick the landing? Hell no! They didn't stick the landing. They didn't even land, man. They fell in their face. It was an ending, but no, that ending was trash. They endings are hard, like they said. Now, this was from season 5. If that had been the end of the series, that would have been a perfect ending. They really stuck the landing. I don't mind they did another 10 seasons. I enjoyed those 10 seasons. I really, really like season 6 and 7. I love those seasons. Those are really good seasons. A couple seasons later on are really good. Not every season was good. But, you know, it's worth it. It's fine. But the ending, no. They didn't stick the landing. Last couple seasons sucked ass and the ending sucked ass. Did not stick the landing. Epic storytelling, you didn't stick the landing. Because here's the thing. Here's a problem with these long epic stories. And by the way, you notice I didn't grade X-Files. No, they didn't stick the landing in X-Files. It sucked ass. So there we are, right? It's hard because you have so many hours of material. So many hours. And you have the characters have been through so much. When most series end after 7 seasons, you start talking about 8, 9, 10 seasons, 20 episode seasons. That's a shit ton of storytelling. And I know anime can go much further. I know book series can go much further. We've got the Dark Tower series, an epic story, 7 volumes. More now. But at the time, it was 7 long novels. Did he stick the landing? It wasn't terrible. Wasn't great. You know, I don't know. I mean, it was alright. It was alright. That's about the best you're going to get. Because endings are hard. Ending epic stories are hard, man. It's the hardest thing an author can ever do. Like I said, any chapped ass monkey can start a story. You know, I walk out this room and suddenly there's a desert outside the door instead of woods. How the hell did that happen? That's an intriguing start to a story. You wake up and there's nobody around it, like the entire city's empty. You go drive to the grocery store and there's nobody in the streets. Street lights all work. You know, there seems to be people in the buildings. You know, you hear like noises and stuff, but there's nobody in the street. Nobody. No pedestrians, no other cars, nothing. It's completely empty, and there's no sound anywhere around you except you hear noises in the buildings, right? So you get to the grocery store. You walk in there, and when you open the door, you hear like the sounds of people had just been there, but now they're gone. And there's just nobody around. But then you look out the window, you see cars moving and stuff. There's cars out there. And maybe you see a couple of pedestrians walking through the window, but now you're in a grocery store and it's completely empty, right? Nobody's in the grocery store. You take what you want. You get to the checkout. There's nobody at the checkout. You just kind of walk out waiting to hear somebody shout at you. Nobody does. You get outside. And all of a sudden there's nobody outside again. You get to the car and you look back at the grocery store and there's people looking out the window like, damn, he just stole our shit. Look at him, he just stole our shit. But nobody's going outside. They're pointing at you, waving for you to come back inside so you can pay for your shit. But nobody's walking outside. I just pulled all that out of my ass. That's the start of a story. Completely out of my ass. I have no idea where I'd go. I didn't pre-plan this. Just sitting here, spitballing, I came up with that. Out of nothing, right? They just pulled that out. Anybody can make up an intriguing beginning to a story. Any chapped ass monkey, like this guy, I just made the intriguing beginning of a story. But how the hell do you explain everything I just described? How do you wrap that up? How do you make it mean something? What is the theme? We're all alone in this world? Maybe your theme could be like, we're all alone. We don't really pay attention to anybody. Nobody matters but yourself. And thematically, you express that in the plot and what happens, and in the mystery of what the hell is going on. Why is nobody around him? But then there's people further away, right? Like, what is that? You got to be able to get an end. When you get to the ending, you have to explain what I just said. How? I don't know how. I just made this shit up. Why are the people disappearing when you go in the building and come back when you're not? Why don't they go outside? Are they going outside? And maybe you hear the door open, but then nobody comes out. What is that? Are you on two slightly different planes of existence? Maybe. I'm already starting to spitball solutions, right? But I'm just saying, wrapping that up as just a short story is hard. Because you got to explain that shit. It's got to make sense. People are like, okay, I get it. I understand that. And then it's also got to be thematically satisfying. And the character's got to do a little bit of an arc or something, right? Maybe he's an introvert. And now, finally, he feels good because he doesn't have to interact with anybody, right? Maybe he's an extrovert. And now, all of a sudden, how does he function when he can't interact with anybody? You can do it either way, right? You can have one be an introvert, one be an extrovert. Maybe there's one other person this is happening to, right? Beginnings are easy because you start with the blank slate. Making that shit mean something, wrapping it up, explaining everything, having no plot holes, having it all end in a satisfying way with the way people have in their heads the way they want these character arcs to end. They have it in their head. You know, I mean, personally, I think Luffy should not become king of the pirates, but after 25 years of him saying he's going to be, how could there be any other thing that happens? HIG thinks he's going to die, maybe be king of the pirates, but then like the last king of the pirates, he would die. If Luffy doesn't die, is HIG going to be disappointed? If Luffy becomes king of the pirates, am I going to be disappointed? See, he can only do one or the other. Well, I guess technically he could do both. But for me, I want him to live, right? So say he lives and becomes king of the pirates, am I disappointed? And is also HIG disappointed because he lived? If he dies and becomes king of the pirates, but then he dies, maybe I would be satisfied and HIG would be satisfied, but another 1,000 people would be pissed off. You can't make everybody happy. What you can do is you can wrap everything up and in a way that makes sense. It doesn't feel like you pulled it out of your ass, and is narratively and thematically satisfying. Whereas maybe at first, when people hit that ending, they're like, damn, Luffy died for real? Seriously? I've been following this shit for 25 years and the main character dies at the end? But then you go through it again, and it's like, and then you realize you get what's going on, and you get what it means, and it's like, oh, I get it, I understand. Like, the X-Files should have ended with them realizing some mysteries don't need to be learned. Some mysteries don't need to be explained. You spent all your time trying to uncover the truth, and I feel like that was the original intention, and they lost their way because they did too many goddamn seasons. Because we find out there's a government, the government is covering this shit up because if the public finds out, the aliens are going to go ahead and invade, and they're going to kill everybody. So that's why the government's covering up. The government will kill 10 people to cover up the mystery of the aliens, because that keeps the 7 billion people in the world alive. And then you realize, so you should realize when you understand this, when you grasp this, yes, it's bad 10 people died. But the greater good is 7 billion there's no way to stop the alien invasion. They're going to come in, they're going to kill everybody. They're going to do it. You had to cooperate. You had to capitulate to the aliens. We'll keep the public in the dark. You know? That's our job. Keep the public in the dark, or you'll invade if everybody finds out. So Mulder and Scully, especially Mulder, since he's the one the truth is out there, I want to find everything out, should have come to a decision, come to a point in his character where he realized, I need to stop digging into things. Stop looking for answers. I need to be okay with not knowing. And if he could have done that with his sister, they had to go and explain to his sister, ooh, Starlight, ooh. The hell was that? Don't explain that shit. Have him give up on that quest. And then he'll realize he should also give up on the quest, the bigger picture questions, because some things that should have been the thematic purpose, the thematic point of the series. That should have been the end point. If you end it in that way, he's like, I'm done looking into shit. Sometimes it's better to not know. You could end it in a satisfying way, rather than that wet garbage we got, right? The hell was Jesus? That was such a terrible finale. Not good. So you can do this. You can end it where the details may not be exactly what you wanted for specific characters. Maybe not even for the plot, but it feels earned, and it feels like what we're always heading towards. It feels like, for instance, my theory is that One Piece is knowledge. Knowledge is treasure. How many times have they said knowledge is treasure in this series? They said it again recently, in a recent episode I watched. So if you end it with the One Piece being knowledge, it's been, and then you rewatch the whole series from the beginning, you see it everywhere. You see it everywhere. Oh, wait, okay, yeah. And then you realize the ending is perfect. This is what we were trying to do. Let's look at some other epic stories. And it's got to be something that, like, for instance, the Star Wars trilogy is only 9 hours. We got to be talking about. See, it's hard to wrap up 9 hours. A 9-hour story. But it's not. It can be done, and it's done often. It's done well very often, right? It's a lot harder once you start talking about hundreds of hours of storytelling, because there's so many things. There's so many questions raised over the years. There's so many character developments. There's so many character beats and arcs, and and where do we end up? And then what happens to everybody after the fact, right? We're also got to address that. You got to tie everything up. So something like Breaking Bad, I think, has the perfect ending. But it was only 55 hours, essentially. We throw the movie in there. It's only 55 hours. Perfect ending. They perfectly stuck the landing. It's one of the best finales I've ever seen in my life. They didn't just stick the landing, they slammed the landing. Perfect. 10 out of 10, no notes. But it's only a handful of characters. How many characters are we talking about who actually matter? 5? Who actually matter? Like, there's a lot of characters in that show, but the ones who actually matter, 5, maybe? It's not hard to get perfect endings for 5 characters. And to wrap up half 100 hours of storytelling. Especially the way they did it, where it's like it got simpler and simpler and more focused as we went along. It didn't get... George R. R. Martin's problem is he's expanding out. How the hell do you end that when you're going outward? You should be going in the closer you get to the end of your story. Sealing things off. This person died. This person took the job. This person moved away. Their stories are done before the end. Voyager, 7 years... 20 hours a year, so maybe 150, 160 hours they stick to landing. Of course not. Trash. That ending was trash. But the only thing they did right is they wrapped up one storyline of one character a couple episodes before the finale, so that they didn't have so much to do in the finale. Right? That was smart. They did. It was a very good character ending for that character. So they knew they were smart to do that at least. But man, boy, they shit the bed with that ending. Ugh. But not really epic storytelling anyway. That was more... Why did I say that instead of like Deep Space Nine? Well, I haven't watched Deep Space Nine. Haven't seen 1 minute of it. I did watch Next Generation, but that was just all Monster of the Week shit. Like, it wasn't one story. Like, Voyager essentially was one story. They're trying to get home. Like, they have an overarching story. All the character... arcs are basically flat lines except for like 3 people. If you have tits and ass, you have a pretty good chance of getting your storyline wrapped up in a satisfying way and actually having an arc. The curve of your story arc, your character arc throughout the course of the series will match your ass, essentially. If you're a dude, forget about it. You're going to be an ensign for all 7 seasons. I don't care if you were voted most beautiful actor on the planet in the end of season 3, so they didn't fire your ass. They fired somebody else simply because People Magazine said you were sexy. I don't care. He still had a flat ass storyline, like his flat ass. You get nothing. You had to be sexy to get a character arc in that show. So that's not an epic story. I think Breaking Bad was. It was just too short for our purposes here. We're talking about stuff like we're talking about time invested in the story. Yes, Stephen King's Dark Tower is only 7 novels, but each novel requires hours of reading. I don't know what the total time investment would be. I guess you could look at the audio book length. That would give you a good indication. Each audiobook's probably 8 to 10 hours, maybe oh, maybe more than that. Like Doom and Key was like 23 CDs. Each CD was an hour. Doom and Key is about the length of one of those. So if we had to judge that, 7. So we're talking about maybe 150 hours, something like that. Ballpark. It's about as good as we're going to get. Like, nobody else is going to have 550 hours. Less than that when we count credits and 22-minute runtimes and shit. So let's say we're right around 500 hours of storytelling now with One Piece. One of the longest stories ever told. Journey to the West was really long, but, you know, especially if you do the, what are they called? I can't remember the channel name anymore. I don't really go there anymore, but like the Red and Blue, they do history and myths and stuff. They were recapping Journey to the West, but they do like one a year, so it's going to take them forever. I forget the channel name now. Anyway, you got to be more than 100 hours, I think, to even approach this level of epicness. But did they stick to landing? So, you know, like I said, Dark Tower, Voyager, X-Files, no. Blind Spot was only 5 seasons. And mostly 20 episode seasons, so we're talking about like a little over 100 hours probably. I think they did exactly 100 episodes, so it's less than 100 hours because 45-minute episodes. Yeah, their series finale was episode 100, so it was exactly 100. But here's the thing: the last season, the first season was a perfect season. The second season was good. The third season was okay. The fourth season was bad, and the fifth season was trash. So that had a really bad arc for the quality of the series. And then the series finale is one of the best series finales I've ever seen in my life. For a season that was trash. And for a rapid decline. I don't know what the hell happened. Did they bring back a writer from the first 2 seasons to just write the finale? It was incredible. And it actually wrapped up the themes. It wrapped up the tone. It was serious. It was chilling. When it was over, I was sitting there like this. Chilled to my core. Like, did I just see that? It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my life. And maybe it was so incredible because of how low my expectations were. I was really just watching because of the time investment. I'd already sunk into the series. And to just see how bad it was going to be so I could make fun of it like I do all these other shows that end up shit and have terrible series finales. Boy, they stick to landing. It was absolutely incredible. Just incredible. I don't know. I've never seen that before. I've never seen this series quality decline, and then the finale is a 10 out of 10. Like, just epically good. Like, holy shit. You know, blew me away. Like, I need to rewatch that series. It's been so long, with all my spare time. But I haven't seen it since it first aired. But I've watched season 1 several times because it's so good. It's so good. It's perfect. Season 2 is really good. So, that's a very rare case where the series finale is just exceptional and so far above what had transpired previous to it, right? But, you know, less than 100 hours. Doesn't count. Stargate SG-1. Stargate SG-1 had over 200 episodes. So they were close. And the episode 200 was like halfway to the finale. I think it was like episode 10 of season 10. Something like that. Because a lot of their seasons later, once they went to the Sci-Fi Channel from Showtime, they had 20 episode seasons, right? Like clockwork. But before that, they would have 22, 23 episode seasons regularly from Showtime. 24, maybe, something like that. So it was odd numbers. It wasn't exactly 20. So what ended up happening is that carried over. So that your 200th episode is not going to be your series finale, you know, which would have been if they'd had 10, 20 episode seasons. So they were able to get episode 200 out of the way, and they still had episodes. So they were over 200. And live action wise, other than Supernatural, they're the closest thing to a long-term live action that we can talk about here. Epic storytelling. It was really 2 stories, though. You had the Goa'uld, seasons 1 through 7. And then you just had kind of a hodgepodge mix and match season 8. And season 9 and 10 was the URI. It's a different story entirely. Same characters for the most part. There's a lot of the same characters. But really, you had 3 series finales. Into season 7, into season 8, and then into season 10. So, they stuck the landing. Really, all three? Really? The season 7 finale was probably the best. The season 10 finale was really good. It was thematically excellent because it was. What was interesting though, the season 7 finale. There's two kinds of finales. Everything changes and the show goes on. You just don't go with them, right? So, status quo. We're going on to further adventures. You're just not going to be with us. So either everything changes, if people die, the world blows up, or the team breaks up, the threat is over, whatever. The time travel machine is destroyed, whatever. Or we're going to keep time traveling. You're just not going to be with us to see it, right? It's one of those are the only two kind of finales you can have. So season 7 was everything changes. The threat is over. Everything changes. The Goa'uld are destroyed. Team breaks up. This, that, and the other, right? So that was season 7 finale. Season 8 finale was, I don't even know how to describe it. It was really just a character-driven finale. Let's look at the characters. Let's have fun. So nothing much going on there. The season 10 finale was the show goes on. We have further adventures. But they also did the character study. So they kind of combined, let's really focus on the characters, but then also let's say the show goes on. So they have 3 finales. I think they did a pretty good job. Better than average. I was, for epic storytelling, even though this isn't one coherent story, it's really 3. So we're not doing what One Piece did, although you could say One Piece is 2 stories, before the time skip and after. They're mirror images of each other, right? So you could say that. But either way, they came close to stick to land. They did a pretty good job. And that really is the only other one I can think of for epic, long-form storytelling that requires a huge time investment from the fans. Now, I know there's like Wheel of Time, which is like 10, 13 books or whatever. I can't speak to that. I have no real knowledge of that. There could be some other fantasy novel series out there that are really long. I don't know how epic they are. I don't know how popular they are. I don't know how many fans there are, because that matters. The pressure of a huge number of fans is different than a small fan base that's really, really in there, right? Harry Potter's there, but it's that. Did they stick to landing? I guess a little bit below average, I would say. It's fine, but it's not wet garbage. You didn't completely shit the bed. You were going to wait till after your writing career was over to do that, but it's fine. But the time investment there, a couple $100 probably, because again, we're talking about the average. Because I had those audiobooks, the average CDs total was 17 to 19 per book for the most part. The early ones were just 10 to 12 CDs. The later ones, Order of the Phoenix, I think was the longest one. It was 23 CDs. And then I think the Half-Blood Prince was like 19 or something. And then, the final book was like 20 or 21, something like that. So quite a few hours of investment, but again, a small number of characters you're paying off here. Really, we care about 3 characters. That's about it. Yes, there's a couple other tertiary characters. You could push that number out to 6 or 8 if you wanted to. You can make a case. But the Straw Hats are 10 deep now? And there's a couple other people like Law that we care about. There's a lot of characters we got to resolve here. So, what does all this mean? What am I saying here? I've been talking for quite a while. I haven't even gotten to my point yet. The point is, endings are hard. And the point is, this series is ultimately going to be judged by its ending. Did he stick to landing? And a lot of people believe the Attack on Titan author did not stick to landing. I believe the Fullmetal Alchemist author did. He's really good. Naruto, it's fine. It was fine. It was fine. It just, Naruto got a little convoluted. They didn't know who they wanted their big bad to be. We had about 3 or 4 layers of big bad. It's this person. No, it's this person. No, it's this person. No, it's this person. It's this God. It's this God from the past. No, it's this. It's just, can we just have one goddamn big bad? Maybe two with one behind one. We had like four. Each was behind the next. I mean, that's just a very clumsy, sloppy way to end a story. You know, you should have paced that shit out for one thing. You know, all these reveals happen within the space of 20 to 30 episodes, if that. They had a really good thing going with like everybody was in a hive mind dream state. Like, you know, that was fantastic. I love that. I really love those filler stories where we were talking about the, you know, some of us filler, some of us like, you know, just going into a dream state and, you know, what is, you know, it gives you a chance to say what the characters care about and what they're doing and what matters, right? And they were trapped. It was like it being in the Matrix, right? Clever, very clever. They had a lot of good ideas, in the character, where the characters ended up was pretty satisfying, but like, I don't know, man, it's just, you know, it was clumsy and sloppy. I'll just put it that way. This had better not be clumsy and sloppy. But the degree of difficulty to end a series this long, not just in time investment for the author and for the fans, but in sheer volume. Like, I can't imagine how large of a task that is. He is working his ass off. He's out there grinding. And who knows how much longer it's going to take. It could take him another 10 years to wrap this up. But we're not even talking about the time investment now. We're talking about like just the storytelling. Like, you got to wrap up the world. You got to answer all the mysteries, which I assume he does have answers to because I'm sure he had answers before he introduced them. Unlike Chris Carter from the X-Files. That's a problem. The Lost Writers had answers to everything. They just chose not to answer those questions for some reason. You can figure it out. It's all there textually. Like, you can figure out every mystery you have that you didn't get answered. But they could have just told us. We didn't have to go digging through it for 10 years to figure it all out. But, yeah, like the X-Files, they didn't even have the answers. They were just throwing shit at the wall. Just doing random shit to be random. I will not watch reactions to the X-Files. Ellie Moses, I love him. But I won't watch reactions to X-Files because it's pointless, man. It's pointless. There's no there. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. They were making up as they went along, and there was never going to be a resolution to anything. He has the answers. Having them come out in an organic way, I don't know that that's going to happen. I mean, I'm starting to see in the Futureland arc, what are we calling that arc? Whatever it is. The Vegapunk arc. They're just stating shit. Okay, here's this. All right, here's this exposition. All right, let me slam this book on the table. Read through this book. These are your answers you need, right? They're just giving it to us. It's hard when you got this much to talk about over this amount of time to just not do that, right? Like, so who the hell knows? Like, I don't know how he's going to do it. I'm assuming there may be some form of time travel to find out what happened in the Void Century, or somebody who was there find out what happened. I don't know, man. But he's got to answer all the mysteries, wrap up all the character arcs. Most of them don't have them. I guess at the end, Usopp, here's your record of everything you did. You can go back and tell people it's your island. So, you know, here you go. And here, Zoro. I guess Zoro defeating Mihawk would be it, right? That would be his satisfactory conclusion. And you could easily just show Sanji seeing it all blue and set up a restaurant right there, you know. But I don't know, man. Some of these people, you could be done with the montage. You could do it with a huge double-page splash. Here's where everybody is now. Handle it in 2 big-ass pages. And you just show one panel of each one doing their thing. This is their happy ending. You could do that. I don't know, man. Like, is it going to feel too rushed? Is it going to feel not rushed enough? Is it going to make sense? Are we going to agree with it? Are we going to like it? Will it feel satisfying? Will anything feel satisfying after 25 years or 30 years by the time it's all said and done? Probably not. There's probably going to be a level of bitching we have not seen since the end of Game of Thrones. I think he can do it. I actually believe he can stick the landing. But I'm pretty generous that way, you know? Like, I'm not going to be harsh. He could completely shit. If he shits the bed, I'm going to say it. Like, you know. But this series is going to be judged by how it is ended. Right now, it's a masterpiece. It's the best story ever told. But if he shits the bed at the ending, that will no longer be the case. That will kill it. You know, a lot of people don't rewatch Game of Thrones anymore because the ending was so bad. You know, I've never seen a show drop off the map like that from pop culture after that ending. Like people looked at that shit. Okay, never mind. More niche example would be the Dexter novels. You know, the series is TV series based off of novels, right? Well, in the Dexter novels, there's like the fifth or sixth novel. All of a sudden, he's an ancient spirit, Moloch or something. Like he's got a literal demon inside him. That's who the Dark Pastor is. Don't nobody read that shit. They tried that shit with Halloween. I read the novelization of the original Halloween way back in the day after the first movie came out. I read that novel. And they were talking the same shit. It's some ancient demon, you know, the inhabiting. That's who he actually is. No, F you. The scariest thing you can have is a person who's that way. You're going to make him a damn demon, and especially after 5 or 6 books. You ever read the Private series? I know you haven't. There's no way in hell a single person watching this ever read the series Private. It's called the Private series. But it's a series of teen romance novels that have murder and mystery with them, right? It's like, think Pretty Little Liars, but set in a boarding school, a rich boarding school in the Northeast or some shit, right? And I actually read them all. And the weird part was, I think it was like an 18 to 20 book series. They introduced witchcraft in book 17 or 18. They were almost at the end, and all of a sudden witchcraft was a real thing. Man, we had gone through 16 books. We've been on a little island. She had solved 3 murders. There were 3 serial killers she had caught at the school and shit, and uncovered all these ancient histories from different families that they had been doing all this weird shit, whack shit, all grounded in reality: murder, poison, garrots, and traps, and guns, and knives and shit. Right? She solved it all. Right? She's a little, like, 6-year-old girl in love with every dude she runs across, right? She's got like 6 guys on the string and shit. It was terrible books, but I couldn't stop watching. Couldn't stop reading them. The fascinating thing is, by the way, this author's a genius because she did the main series Private. And like I said, you have a group of serial killers. Well, the first serial killer was like the first 6 books. So then they sent her ass to an insane asylum. They didn't kill her. They found out she was a killer. They put her ass in an insane asylum. So then they did a 4-book spinoff of her adventures, breaking out of the insane asylum and going and trying to have a happy life, and she just can't stop killing. Like, it's awesome. Those books were awesome. From the point of view of a female, like, 16-year-old serial killer, like, just mass murdering menace to society. Literally, she tried really hard to have a happy life. She really tried hard to stop killing when she left the insane asylum and broke out. She assumed some woman's identity she had killed, right? Tried really hard to be happy and just have a boyfriend and just be happy. Just, let me please leave the killing in my past and just, I want to be a happy person. And people keep screwing with her. So she just got to do what's got to be done, man. Like, she has one response to any threat, and that's kill this sumbitch. It's so good, man. Oh my god, it was so good. It's just, I like to read trash every now and then. Like, every now and then I like to eat McDonald's, right? Like, I don't always eat, not that I can afford it, but I don't always eat a steakhouse. If I had all the money, I would normally eat a steakhouse. Every now and then I'm going to go through McDonald's and eat some straight garbage. Just trash. Same with my entertainment. Every now and then I want to read these trashy teen romances that are not intended for a middle-aged man. Did that book series stick to landing? I mean, it was 20 books, plus the 4-book spinoff. Not really. But it was never going to. It's trash. Anyway, how the hell did I get off on that? I actually literally don't remember. I'll stop and try to figure out what month. Pick up the thread. Oh, I remember what it was. Introducing whack shit late in the series. Dexter novels did it. The Private series did it. All of a sudden we have witchcraft after 15, 16 novels. What the hell are you talking about? Like, why the hell would you do that? I don't think we're going to get that in One Piece. I guess, if you introduced aliens 30 years into the story, when there's never been, as far as I can tell, any foreshadowing to that, other than the fact there's so many different species of humanoid people on the same planet. That's so weird. You have the varying sizes. So weird. But other than like, I haven't seen any foreshadowing for aliens. So if you suddenly brought in aliens, then yeah, like or parallel realities. I think parallel realities would be even worse. If you suddenly brought that shit in, like that would be whack. Since I mentioned Pretty Little Liars, that's another long, 7 seasons, 150 hours at least, a lot of hours. Some of the seasons were long. Huge fan base, a lot of pressure, same characters, long story arcs, character arcs over the course of the series and stuff. Now there's another one where they told separate stories. They had like 2 or 3 different killers, I think, over the course. 2, maybe 3. So again, I don't know this perfectly comparable to One Piece, but did they stick to landing? Hell no! That shit was garbage. That's another show that completely fell off pop culture. Pretty Little Liars just dropped like a rock after it was over. Just nobody talks about it anymore. Nobody talks about it anymore. Just dropped like a rock. Because the ending was so bad, they didn't stick to landing. It's way garbage. That's the problem here. If he doesn't stick to landing, if the ending is just absolutely terrible, will this disappear from pop culture in 10 years? Will we just stop seeing the merchandise being sold and stop being so popular? I seriously doubt it. But again, look how big Game of Thrones was. Appointment television, just nobody, like everybody had the merchandise. Everybody was talking about, people were cooking food based on Westerosi, recipes and shit. And they were making ale, like Amber Gold or whatever it was called, Arbor Gold. They're making liquor and food and eating it with these shows, these episodes and shit, right? They're buying coffee table books because it's been 12 years, 13 years since he's published anything real. So he has to throw the publisher a bone every now and then. All right, why don't you sell this then, since I don't have a book for you? Since I violated my contract. Here's another shitty Silmarillion, So it was that big and just fell off pop culture. Could this fall off the map, pop culturally speaking, in 10 years? It's possible. I don't think it will. It's the greatest story ever told, man. But, you gotta stick to landing. So, he has a massive task ahead of him. I think he's gonna pull it off, but, man, there's so many pitfalls and traps he could fall into. So many unsatisfying ways it could go. I could sit here. Originally, I was gonna be like, okay, let me pitch an ending that I would like. But there's just so many ways. We don't have enough information. There's so many ways it could go. Personally, I still believe that you should get rid of magic. And maybe, there's an explanation for why people are so many different sizes and long arms and long legs and all these very mutations. Maybe it's all evidence of a nuclear war in the past or some shit. Maybe it's nuclear power that they're hiding. That would be so thematically relevant given the fact he's Japanese. The nukes are the scariest thing in the world, right? We kind of saw that too. The nuke energy with the island being destroyed. That was coded as hell. So I don't know what I would want. Other than I wouldn't mind seeing Magic League, but I'm not married to that. I mean, who cares, right? I'm not invested in it, but it'd be interesting. I think the characters are going to end in predictable ways. Sanji will open up his restaurant. I really don't know what Zoro will do. So he's the greatest swordsman in the world. Then what? Does he open up a dojo? Probably. I guess. I don't know what he would do. Usopp, I think, goes back to the island, gets back up with his boo, and tells all the people around there all the stories, and now they can believe him. He's going to do that. Chopper will start a hospital. Maybe be in charge of World Health or something. I don't know. Maybe they form their own government or something. Because there's going to be a void. Speaking of voids, once the government falls, which it definitely will. The 5 elders, out of here. Get them out of here. So, I can see Chopper opening up a hospital. Jinbe going back to Fishman Island. I mean, we don't really know what he wants. We don't know what his dream is. Everybody be free and happy, I guess. I don't know. Brooke just wants to be around people and entertain. He can do that. I can see that happening. Robin wants all the knowledge. She'll have gotten that, if I'm right. If the One Piece is knowledge. So I think that's all the people I can think of. Nami, I guess, where would she end up? Who the hell knows? Probably very wealthy, a wealthy socialite, maybe has her own yacht or something. Or house on the beach or some shit. Maybe our own private island. Wealth, opulence, never needs anything in it again for the rest of her life. I can totally see that. I don't know, man. Like, it's just, those are all predictable endings. Luffy, of course, probably would continue sailing around the world, you know? Now, this is all assuming none of these people die. I can see a couple deaths. I think we should have a couple deaths. Who knows who they would be, you know? Thematically, Brook could die, but, like, he never really lived, right? That was the problem. So, who has really lived to his fullest? Who's lived to the fullest capacity, squeezes everything out of every day? Probably Zoro. Like, I can totally see Zoro dying, you know? He becomes the greatest swordsman in the world, and then he dies. That's because, again, do I see him starting a dojo? No. Is he just going to be sitting in a tavern every day? That's pretty bleak. Dying on top feels like a good way out for him. So, yeah, that, I mean, it's time to start thinking about the ending, isn't it? So that's kind of why I've spent so much time on that in this podcast. Alrighty, well, let's get to the next topic. That was the main topic. One thing I've written here, I never got to it, but, like, I like the fact that the fruits seek the user, and that seems pretty clear now, right? Like, the brain fruit seeks out Dr. Vegapunk. Clearly, right? That's clearly what's happening. Luffy didn't get the brain fruit. It would be wasted on him. Think about how random it all is, right? Like, you know, you just... Here's what I want you to do. Do this experiment. Get some of your friends around the table. Like, this is best if it's like 6 of you. And write down the power you think would be perfect for each one of these persons on a little slip of paper, okay? Write this down. And, like, say this one person always rushing everywhere. Maybe they're always late, so maybe speed would be their power. Not the drug, but the ability, right? And somebody's always insecure about how people feel about them, so maybe mind reading and, you know, whatever. You know, you get the vibe, right? Like, look at the people. Pick out the perfect power for each one of them. Write on a piece of paper, put it in a bowl, and have everybody pull one out. And I guarantee you, none of them are going to pull out the power that's perfect for them. The person who's already fast or a track runner, they don't need speed, they're going to get speed. The person who's confident, don't give a shit, like me, I don't give a shit what anybody's thinking. Like, I love having conversations with you. I'm not trying to read anybody's mind. I would get mind reading. The person who's already a bodybuilder would get the muscle fruit, right? The dumbest person in your group will get the brain fruit, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's just random, it's going to be the worst matches you've ever seen in your life. Because it's random. That's how random works. This shit ain't random. And it makes total sense because, narratively speaking, you don't want the dumbass having the brain fruit. You don't want the lazy ass having the muscle fruit or whatever. Because he's never going to do anything with his muscles. He's just going to sit on his ass with all his muscles, right? So, you want, like, the woman who wanted to be beautiful. Bo Hancock, I guess, needed love, so she gets one that makes people love her. You know, they're all so perfect for each other, right? Luffy getting the gum fruit's perfect. It was perfect for him, and it fell out of the hands of other people that could have had it, right? Shanks didn't take it. We don't know if he has a fruit power, do we? I'm not sure. He's in the water back in the day, so he didn't have one then. But he didn't eat it immediately because it was destined for somebody else. So, Vegapunk being the one who gets the brain fruit. Come on, man. So, I like the fact that fruits seek out the users. They have some kind of sentience. There's some kind of entity that's behind all this magic in this world. There is. And I keep coming back to it. I've talked about this many times in some of the other Q&As and shit. There is an entity out there controlling all this. And you know what it reminds me of? There's a mini-series called The Lost Room. And I can't remember if it was Dakota Fanning or Elle Fanning played the little girl who got lost in the Lost Room. One of the Fanning girls. Blonde, tiny, who the hell knows? They're both the same, right? One of them played the Lost Girl. Great miniseries, just absolutely, it's really, really good. And it's about, there's this hotel room that in the 50s just disappeared from existence. Everybody forgot it existed. And this hotel room had a guy in it at the time when it disappeared. And there was a bunch of objects. So he had a watch, he had a pen, he had a lighter, you know, and he had a suit, he had clothes, like a hat and shoes and socks and, you know, everything you can imagine being in a hotel room, right? And sheets on the bed, everything in the room became magic. So when the first person went into the lost room back in the day, back when it first happened, there was a key that would give you access to the lost room, right? And you can use the key to go anywhere else, but you can also go to the lost room. So you go into this lost room, and the first person to ever walk in there saw all these objects laying there. There's like 105 objects total, right? It's like a camera, and, you know, all kinds of random shit. So each one of these things have no power inside the lost room. But you take them outside the lost room, they have powers. The lighter can set people on fire, right? The pen, I forget what the pen does. Yeah, I don't really remember what a lot of the powers were now, but each one has a power. Like, I think there was like a raincoat that was like armor. People would shoot at you and it had no effect. It'd bounce off you. Like, so the raincoat was armor. Like I said, the lighter you can set people on fire with. There was a glass eye, and you can use the glass eye, it shoots a laser, and you can kill people with it. Right? There's awesome and terrible powers for each one of these objects. So they come to find out, they started to realize that people have been studying this room and these objects for 40 years. And there was government agencies and stuff that were tracking all these objects because all the objects have been taken out of the room, one time or another. And they've been scattered all over the world. And people were tracking where all these objects were because some people were trying to collect all the objects back in the same, you know, it's like a deck of cards that make you go crazy and all kinds of shit, right? People were trying to get the objects all back together so they could take it to the room and put it back where it belongs, right? And so they ran this computer simulation, and they realized the objects kind of move on their own in a way. It's like if there was two objects in a city, a third object would avoid that city because they didn't like being all together, right? And there was one city in the United States that no object ever went to. In the entire 40 years, it had never been in, none of these objects had ever been in this city. And they're like, there's some kind of intelligence working behind these objects. There's something controlling these things. These are sentient actions. So they went to that town and they discovered the man that had been in the hotel room that day. He was immortal, right? He is an object. He's a human object, right? He's got all these powers. And he had the power to control the objects from a distance. And he just kept them away from him because he didn't want anything to do with any of them, right? So I think that there's something like that going on here. There's some kind of sentience some way. I don't know if it's a hive mind, like each fruit is one neuron and you take them all, the accumulation of all of them form a brain, right? Or it's just a creature that is shitting out these fruits that, you know, it places them in certain places and just having fun with the chaos. Or maybe they're trying to do something. Maybe they're trying to prepare the world for alien invasion. I don't know. There's something going on with the fruits, clearly. This isn't a breaking news observation here. Something's going on with the fruits, and I think they seek the user, and I think that's obvious right now. The Vegapunk thing is really sealed. They mentioned it recently, talking about the Luffy's fruit seemed to have saw him out and always avoided the five elders because it was the most powerful fruit. It's the liberation fruit. So they always avoided falling into the grasp of the five elders and did seek Luffy out. So that's already been stated. I think it's big. I think every fruit has sought out everybody, including Blackbeard. Like, I think they all have a part to play, and all of them think that they're the puppet masters, and none of them are. We're all the puppets. Everybody in the story is a puppet, and there's a puppet master, and I'm not talking about the dude sitting on the throne. There is a puppet master entity arranging all the pieces on the board, playing a really long chess game, a 900-year chess game, get everything in the perfect position. I don't know what happens then, but I think it's very bad for all of us. Maybe alien invasion, maybe demonic invasion, or maybe just the end of the world. You know, something. There's going to be high stakes here at the end. I don't think it's just going to be the government. I think we may end up being on the side of the government against whatever the hell this thing is. Maybe that's why they nuke islands. Maybe they're like in X-Files. They're like the government cooperating with the aliens because and killing people every now and then, and they look evil. The conspiracy looks evil because they're murdering people and making them look like they committed suicide or they killed their own family or whatever. Those are evil acts. What if it's to save 7 billion people? Is it still evil? I guess. But you understand. Like, look, if somebody came to me and said, look, you have to die to save all 7 billion people on the planet, I would like to believe I would be okay with that. Especially considering I'm old. And I feel like death's around the door anyway. But, you know, I would like to believe I'd be okay with that. I'd be like maybe I wouldn't throw a parade. I talked about this during the cabin in the woods. You're talking about the entire goddamn world. You realize how selfish you have to be. Especially when you're going to die anyway. Like, you're going to still die, but everybody else dies too. You're so selfish, you'd rather everybody else die too because you have to die. Wow. That's a level of selfishness we can't even comprehend, man. That's why I hate that movie, and I hate the two characters in the movie. They would literally rather every person on Earth die, and they die, than just they die to help everybody else. Boy, you talk about some Gen Z selfishness, man, or whatever the hell that generation is. Jesus, man, you people are pathetic. So maybe this government has done some evil acts, obviously. What if it was to delay the inevitable destruction of all life on Earth, this Earth? Who knows? Possible. I think the fruits are key, right? And there seems to be a sentience involved, and I think the fact that there's a sentience should terrify everybody involved. They're not really thinking about it, but I think that's what I think. It's scary that there is a sentience involved. All right, well, couple things left. Here's my hot take. Sanji is nowhere near the fighter Zoro is, and he doesn't need to be. I am so sick of watching Sanji and Zoro face off. I know this is comedy. It's funny to see them bicker, like we've been seeing them bicker for the past 25 years. They've only aged up 2 years of maturity. The rest of us are getting pretty goddamn old. It's feeling super immature at this point, and it didn't 25 years ago. I get it, we were kids then. So, you were, anyway. Their bickering is stupid. I do find it, I still laugh. I laughed recently. It happened just a couple episodes ago. People are trying to have a conversation in the foreground, and they're just really fighting back there. It's funny. It is funny. It is funny. It's also stupid. And there's nobody on Earth who believes that Sanji could kill, if they had to. Like, say, Sanji and Zoro had to kill each other. One of them had to die. And they fought with the intention one of them had to die. Like, it's just, there's no, I don't know what the scenario would be, but whatever it is, it's to the death, no holding back. And this is vital that you do this. The other, one of you has to die, right? Maybe it's to save the rest of the Straw Hats. Sanji would not have a effing chance, man. Zoro would mop the floor with him. He would smoke him. I don't care about his firefoot. Zoro would destroy him. They are nowhere near the same level. And I'm tired of the show pretending that they are. They're not, man. Yes, he beat Queen. Probably bullshit. You know, he's a cook. He doesn't use his hands. He's got a foot. Yes, I know he's powerful. I know he can moonwalk. I know his foot's really strong. He'd be kicking ass. Look, I'm not saying he's a bitch. He's probably the 5th best fighter in the entire ship. That's pretty good, you know. It's above the halfway mark. But he's not in the same league, man. He's not even in the same time zone as Zoro. Zoro would smoke him. And why does he pretend otherwise? Why does Sanji pretend otherwise? His ego, I guess. It's annoying, man. Like, there's just, you know, it'd be like, it's like when you see those little tiny dogs barking and pretending like they're going to do something to a 200-pound Great Dane. Give me a break, man. An 8-pound toy poodle is going to kick that 200-pound Great Dane's ass. And he's selling all these wolf tickets. He's barking like, yeah, if you come one step closer, I'm going to kick your ass. The Great Dane steps one step closer and he runs back. The little toy poodle runs back behind his owner's skirt or something, right? Get out of my face. It's just, the level between the two of you is just too big. It's an insurmountable gulf. That's what this is, man. Like, Zoro, or you want me to believe Zoro is going to be the greatest swordsman in the world, but he can't beat a cook. That's what you want me to believe. Yeah. Could Luffy beat him? Of course Luffy can beat him. But it would take somebody on Luffy's power. Luffy, the other Emperor, Shanks, maybe Law could be Zoro. But otherwise, it's a joke that he's even trying to become the greatest swordsman in the world. It's a joke. The greatest swordsman in the world should be one of the top 10 best fighters in the entire world. Top 10. And the elders are probably 5 of those people. And then you get Shanks and Blackbeard, and you got Luffy. Maybe Law. How many spots are left? Zoro's up in there. Mihawk until Zoro defeats him, but then he takes that spot, right? You're telling me the greatest swordsman in the world can't beat a cook who doesn't use his hands and just uses his feet. Give me a goddamn break. Give me a break, man. Like, come on. It's nothing against Sanji. It's okay, right? It's like being the 10th best quarterback in the NFL. You're still... for every person that makes it to college, there's 100 high school football players who never make it to college. For every college person who makes it to the NFL, there's 100 college players who never make it to the NFL. That's the scale we're talking about here. You avoided elimination from high school to college. Then you avoided elimination from college to the pros. And that elimination, we're talking about 100 to 1 odds. It's almost exactly 100 to 1 odds every single year, right? Then there's 32 starting quarterbacks and 32 backup quarterbacks, and then maybe 10 number 3 quarterbacks. And that's it. That's all we're talking about. So you're telling me you advance up there and you're the 10th best quarterback, and there's only 32 starters and 32 backups, right? And you're the 10th best quarterback. That's really effing good, man. You made it through high school to college. You made it from college to the pros. You made up to be the 10th best quarterback in the entire world. You don't feel bad. You feel pretty goddamn good. That's a hell of a accomplishment. No, you're not in the top 5. But you're still probably going to be making $25 million a year at this point. And I know it's always going up, but so crying about the fact that Sanji can't beat Zoro would be like crying about being the 10th best quarterback. You look really bad, right? Like, you look, Sanji is probably 100 or 200 best fighter in the world. Like, there ain't a whole shit ton of people that can beat him, probably. We've seen him beat he beat Queen, right? We've seen him beat some good people. He's just not on the same level as Zoro. That's all I'm saying, man. And the show acting like he is, and fans acting like he is, and fans, you guys are out of your minds, man. That's all I'm saying. Either that, or you're undercutting what he's trying to be. He's trying to be the greatest swordsman in the world, which should be a top 5 spot all-time fighter, right? Top 10 at the most. Are you saying Sanji's there? No, man. He's the best cook in the world. He's not the best fighter in the world. Can't have everything. Only babies get everything. So that's my hot take. I feel like that one's going to be scorching. I'm not trying to intentionally piss people off. I feel very strongly about this. All right, last thing we're going to do here, because there is no topic for next week or anything like that. Next podcast, because this is a special offshoot spinoff podcast. So the last thing we're going to do, instead of ranking anime, we're going to rank the Straw Hats. Now, these are my current ranks, top to bottom, and we're factoring in entertainment value, intrigue. I think there's 10 of them, isn't there? There's exactly 10 Straw Hats right now. So, 1 to 10, 1 being the best, the most excited, 10 being the least excited. If you were to tell me, this episode is only going to feature 1 Straw Hat, and we're going to see what they're doing for the entire episode, how excited would I be? 10, not excited at all. 1, super hype. That's the ranking system. How hype would I be to see an individual story, just them by themselves, doing shit? Kicking ass, investigating, interrogating, whatever, exploring, whatever the case may be. Whatever it is, how excited would I be to see them? And, 10 being least excited, 1 being most. We'll start with 10. Sanji, 10. Least excited. Enough said. Look, I'm not a hater, man. Somebody has to be a 10. I'm not a hater. I'm not drinking the haterade. This is apple strawberry with a little something else. Nami's number 9. I was surprised too. I spent a lot of time on this list, really thinking it through. But they just, if you were going to tell me they're actually going to do something with their character, anything, on an emotional level of any kind, or maybe when is the last time she stole something? Some kind of thieving adventure, or she was, discovering something map-wise. The last time I think she did anything map-wise, where she discovered something, used a map to discover something, was in filler. So, they're just not giving me anything, man. Maybe if I saw the episode, and then I realized they're going somewhere, we're getting more episodes like that one I just saw, okay, yeah, I'd be more excited. But at this point, she's not doing anything with her, man. Nothing. This is true for most of them, but I'm just saying that there's not even a potential of anything. It's been so long. Brook is number 8. He's just one note. He has one joke. The joke can be funny sometimes. It was recently, actually, when he was looking at Vegapunk, because I was entranced by that ass And then he's talking about seeing her panties. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, she turns around. I totally get where you come from, dude. So, you know, for once, I was on the same page with him. For once. You know, also, for as obsessed as the author is with tits, why does Brooke ask to see the bra? Why is that? Why is it panties? Is panties funnier? You would think Brooke be asked to see bra. Can I see your bra? Right? Because the author's obsessed with tits, clearly, like, without question. Number 7 is Usopp. Again, they're not doing anything with him. I do like that he's at least marginally competent in a fight these days. I love his various little weapons and stuff and the shit he pulls out. So, and he's funny. He does seem less cowardly since Dressrosa, and I did like that sniper moment. He has his moments. That's why he's higher on the list than some of these other people. Chopper's next. You know, again, he's 19 now. He's not 17. Why is he still such a coward? And again, he didn't survive as much death as Usopp did, but he survived quite a bit. Should he still be so scared all the time? He's the age now as everybody else was back when he first met them, because they're 2 years older than him. And none of the other Usopp, none of them were like that, right? So, like, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you still so cowardly? That's, I guess, because it's funny. This is the rule. Pretty much the answer to any of these questions. It's funny, so that's why they do it. So, fair enough. I get that. Frankie's number 5. He's, you know, the top 5. I'm pretty hype. I'm getting hype at this point. He's at the bottom of the top 5, but still, you know, he could turn into, you know, Tonka trucks and tanks and helicopters and shit, and his robot's pretty cool. And he all of them have the one joke, right? The one joke, the posing is pretty goddamn. I don't know why it always makes. Probably because it's a visual joke rather than a verbal joke. Yeah, some of the verbal jokes have just run thin. You know, like Chopper. Don't compliment me or I'll be pissed off. That's worn thin. Brooks' panties is worn thin. You know, Sanji's. That's visual, so that's a little bit funnier. It's worn thin, but it's the visual jokes I'm realizing as I say this make me laugh more frequently than the verbal jokes. Because him doing like this is hilarious animation. It really is funny. Now, the hard eye is not as funny, but the waving body, pretty damn funny. Same with Frankie. Frankie posing is pretty funny. He has the second funniest sequence in the entire series when they stole his underoos and we're running through town and he's running around swinging free. And Chopper has his nasty ass ball sweat draws in his mouth. Oh, Chopper, what are you doing? If he swung that way, that's still nasty. I'm not even talking about that. I'm not talking about the fact that it's another dude. I'm talking about it's nasty, man. You know he had skid marks. Come on, man, look at him. You know he did. Let's not go off on that. Jimby's next. I like Jimmy. He makes me laugh. He's a very good straight man, and that's what he is, a straight man. He gets that his captain is a moron, but he thinks fate's on his side, so I think that's why he's riding with Luffy. I truly believe this. I believe that Jimby thinks fate is on their side. They can't lose with Luffy in charge because fate's on their side, right? And he's right. I think it's actually the truth. But I don't think he is like stunned and just, you know, enraptured with Luffy's intellect. Clearly, right? I like Jimmy a lot, though. He's the grandpa we all want. Well, he's in his 50s, right? He's somewhere around that. Like something like that. I say grandpa, but, you know, something like that. All right, Zoro's number 3. I'm always hyped to see Zoro. We don't get much of him. You know, we got a decent amount of him in Wano. Funniest thing he's ever said, hey, get your fat ass out of the way. That will never not. Every time I think about it, it makes me laugh. That dude was trying to mac on this chick, man, with his big fat ass. And Zoro's like, man, you're blocking the goddamn door. I'm trying to get in here and get crunk. That was so good, man. I love Zoro. So he's number 3. Robin's number 2, which leaves Luffy number 1, obviously, right? But really, the top 3 are interchangeable. I'm super hype about any of them. Robin has gotten the least action, probably, so I'd be probably more excited. She probably should be number 1, especially if we think that, like, if we're going to get something intellectual from her. You know, it's like we're going to find out some secrets and stuff or something she's been reading, a theory she has. I'm sure she has theories. Nobody wants to hear them. so we don't hear them. And this, by the way, I said I was going to wrap it up after I do this ranking, but this is something else I do want to talk about, so just give me another couple minutes. You can see the runtime here. So, I don't know when this is going to end. You do. It's always a weird relationship we have, right? You know exactly how much time is left. I may think I'm going to talk for another 20 minutes, and you see 23 seconds left. You got knowledge of the future. I don't. Anyway, I think when I was talking about, if you watch the other podcast, I was talking about I'm tired of protagonists being morons. Luffy is a moron. Worse, he is intellectually incurious. For somebody who loves to see new things, like he is visually curious, he wants to see new things, he wants to smell new things, he wants to taste new things. So he is sensory curious. He is not intellectually curious. He doesn't want to learn new things. He doesn't want to know how sausage is made or find out all the finer details of this, that, and the other. He has no curiosity for any of that shit. So, and this is a show that spends a lot of time on mysteries. And I've told you I'm tired of the mysteries, and I'd really like to start getting some answers, and we are starting to get some. One of the reasons I'm tired of the mysteries is we have such an intellectually incurious main protagonist who's one of his sidekicks has a lot of interesting theories I would love to hear. We will never hear them because nobody wants to listen to them. Everybody would be bored. If I was on that ship, I'd be like picking her brain every day, man. What do you think about this? What do you think this means? What do you think about that? What is your current theory? Have you revised any theories? I would have my own theories. She could shoot down with her superior knowledge. We don't get any of it. There's no speculation. Every now and then somebody say, well, maybe this means that, right? Very quick aside. But, you know, it's okay if he was just done, but like he is so incurious that we never get any of this, what I find some of the most interesting parts and entertaining parts of some of these other stories I've been mentioning. Stargate SG-1. Yeah, Colonel O'Neill was kind of a dumbass, but he was a lot smarter than he let people believe. He pretended to be dumber than he actually was. And he would, you know, talk to her, engage Samantha Carter and get her theories and get her speculations. And they would have a back and forth, and sometimes he'd even have a good idea he could add to what she's thinking. You know, because he was intellectually curious. He wasn't super intelligent, but he was intellectually curious. Eureka, great show. The sheriff, complete moron, but super intellectually curious, and he could have these sparks of ideas, and he could think about things in a very grounded, real-world kind of way that these scientists couldn't think of anymore because their heads were in the clouds. That's what made the dynamic of the series so great. So you can have a dumbass protagonist and still get satisfying discourse unless they're intellectually incurious and get completely bored and fall asleep when you try to talk to them. So that's what we have. So that's one of the frustrating things about the series is he doesn't give a shit. And there's so many things, like, you know, I used to think it was like Robin was evil because she didn't tell him about his dad or any of her time with the revolutionaries. She didn't tell him because she knows he don't give a shit. Like even in this last, the end of the last arc, she's talking about like, hey, do you want to hear this stuff? And they said no. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but like it basically said no. She said okay, so she stopped talking. Like super frustrating. You know, so I don't. You know, you almost have to have Luffy be asleep while she tells everybody else. But even a lot of the rest of them, say like Usopp's pretty smart. Nami's pretty smart. Frankie would be. Jimmy's probably a good person to bounce off of Robin. Like he'll listen, and he's smart, and he has thoughts, and he's an actual engager in conversation. A lot of the rest of them just are the same, similar to Luffy, like Zoro and Sanji and Chopper, and maybe Usopp would listen. The rest of them are gonna be falling asleep and shit, right? So I don't know, man. Like it's frustrating. But this was a series that was constructed 25 years ago when anime was different, and that was just a thing, and it was for comedic purposes. But there are setbacks, there are drawbacks to having your main character be a moron. Worse than a moron, intellectually incurious, and this is the major drawback that I see. All right, well, here it is. I'm still going to do a really long Q&A, and for people on early access, I'm going to be doing. Now, if you're on super early access, you're going to get it next week. If you're on regular early access, you'll get it in 3 weeks, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, something like that. I'm going to take a week of not doing new episodes of One Piece for the super early access. I'm going to do a movie reaction, long-ass Q&A, essays, and some other good stuff so there's going to be much more shit for One Piece by today's Sunday that you're watching this, by the end of the week, if you want to get over there on super early access, which is tier 3.5, or you can get a regular early access, which is tier 2, just $3 a month, and you'll see that in a few weeks. But either way, like if this isn't enough One Piece talk, there's gonna be a shit ton more. Some I've already done, some I will be doing. I could talk about this show literally for hours, as you've seen.